Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk, but no politics. Okay, as this is another a great show. I love this show, and I want to get into today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Camp Crystal Lake. Camp Crystal Lake is a great camp. It's a great summer camp. There's been some issues in the past, but it's under new management, and they want to let you know that there's always a lifeguard on duty and they've taken care of any problems that may arise. So make sure you get your kids into early registration for 50% off at Camp Crystal Lake. So with that being said, uh it's Halloween time. I like Halloween, not so much as an adult actually anymore, but as a kid I did because my kids, this is the rowdy season, as I like to call it. But Halloween was a great time as a kid. You got to dress up as pretty much whatever you wanted. People gave you free candy, and it was just a great time. So today, I have a returning guest that I'm going to be talking to about Halloween. You know, some great childhood memories, and you know him from panel discussion, retro pop, the 2 Point conversation, my friend, my mentor, my support rock, Mr. Matt Johnson. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. What's going on? How you doing,
uh,
bud? Thank you for having me on again. This is
well,
it's fun. It's been a hot minute. It's been a little while. It's been a
it
lot. I think the
has.
last time we did the cartoons discussion with myself and Johnny. Uh,
Yep.
but I always love doing extra. I always love doing a little extra podcast and work. Love coming on everybody's shows as long as I'm invited. And um, so no, you've been doing great things. It's fun. It's cool to hear a retro pop like show every single week, and I really enjoy the topics that you choose. You seem to find some really hidden gems when it comes to themes and discussion topics on your episodes, which which is pretty cool in my personal opinion. Not everybody wants to talk about the same old, and you really have a way of kind of making people think deep about their childhood and whatnot. So thank you for having me on the show as always. Um, yeah, it's good to be back. Good to
Yeah.
be back.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know as you stated on retro pop, and I love the analogy that we are of the network. We are this podcast is the Burger King of pop culture. Jones.
Yeah, I think
You
that's a
guys are
fair
the
compare. I think it's a
McDonald's.
fair comparison.
And I like it. I like it. I had no. I worked at Burger King, so I had no problem with that. I really liked it.
They're both great. They're both
They
great.
are. They're
So
both great.
you know, it's kind of funny how that all lined up, but yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly. It's we produce so many great shows on the network, and there's bound to be shows that are similarly themed, and it's basically it's like ice cream. I guess when it comes to everybody has like their favorite flavor at maybe a certain time of year is a favorite flavor, and they gravitate towards. And there's nothing bad as long as people are coming to listen to network shows. Uh, it's great in my personal opinion. I love the variety. I love that we each attract. Oh God, Corona. That we both
Whoa.
attract. That we both attract. Our own unique kind of listeners. So it's always
Yeah,
it's always a good discussion. Discussion to be had.
it is. I definitely enjoy. I enjoy retro pop. So, I mean, that's one thing you guys definitely find topics that, like you said, hidden gems, and I find hidden gems. There's stuff on that you guys have done that I never thought I'd listen to about Pizza Hut. I didn't know I needed that,
Yeah.
but I needed it. You gave it to me. You,
You're welcome.
you and Johnny gave me that, and I needed it. Uh, so let's get into today's topic, Halloween. As a kid, what did Halloween mean to you?
Never heard of it. Never heard of the month of Halloween. Never heard of it. No, it honestly, as a kid, it was really. I was definitely more excited about it as a kid as I am most holidays. Definitely more excited about it as a kid. What was cooler than being able to dress up as your favorite character, right? And when you're young, you're influence. You gravitate towards so many, uh, fictional characters, superheroes. Just there's so many varieties of stuff. But 90% of the time, your parents are just plopping in front of the TV to shut you up, and you just gravitate towards whatever you start watching. So the ability to do it, because when I was younger, like I loved playing like make believe and stuff, and like I would dress up. I had my cousins come over, and we do like make believe superhero stuff, and we pretend like we do that, and that was like the coolest thing, to have your imagination running wild. But when it came to Halloween, that was like the only time you could dress up as said characters, that you really enjoyed. When you're young, you don't know anything about cosplay, and I don't even know if cosplay was as prominent then when I was a kid as it is now. I mean, now you go to Comic Cons and stuff, and you see parents dress up their children in various costumes. I can assure you that if my dad even thought about bringing me to a Comic Con, he would not have dressed me up. He would not have dressed me up. So there's a special innocence about Halloween. If as a kid, it got lost on me as an adult. I don't appreciate it as much as an adult. I appreciate the nostalgia, but the holiday in general, I'm not the biggest fan of as an adult. I'm a bit of a grumpy Gus. Just bad high school memories, stuff like that. But as a kid, I think it's the most important thing to be able to have holidays like that. Going to door and be able to trick or treat, have people throw candy at you, and find fun, creative ways to scare you. I think it's so good. I look back on those memories very fondly. Just walking with my dad or my mom, and me and my sister at an event. I think I was way past when my brother was born. I was way past Halloween. Or actually, by the time we started trick or treating, I was way past Halloween and trick or treating. But yeah, there's a special kind of innocence placed in my heart. A lot of fond memories to look back upon for Halloween as a kid.
Yeah, it definitely was fun to dress up as something that you watched on TV all the time.
Yes.
Free candy. And the one thing about Halloween that was always that escaped me, other than what you were saying, as a kid, it was just fun and everything like that. And you go through and you kind of lose it as an adult. But I'm going to throw something at you, and I'm pretty sure every kid has this. The mythical house that gave out full-size candy bars. Did you ever find the mythical house?
No, you know what? I don't think in our neighborhood we ever had that. We had a lot of strange and unique trick or treat offerings that I'm sure we'll discuss about at some point. But I can't say, I don't think in our neighborhood we'd ever had a full candy bar generous person, which absolutely shameful, absolutely shameful. That would be the go-to house, right? The most popular place on the block. But yeah, no, I what we used to do, I grew up on, I won't give exact streets and all that stuff, but what we did is we had our one street, it loops around, but we just go up and down, and that was our trick or treating. We weren't one of those, families who drove to different neighborhoods and picked up candy from other places. It was just the neighborhood, people you knew, people you could trust, and that was all the way. But yeah, there was nobody on our block that gave away full candy bars.
Was it like talked about between you and your friends? Because I know me and my friends talked about it. Like there's a place where we both live, and it's an island. It's not the city, but the place in Niagara Falls, that's an island, begins with a C. And I was always told that was like, trying to compare it to something like opening up.
That was like Magic Land. That was Magic Land.
It was like Magic Land, where everything was a full size candy bar, and people were handed out $5. I handed out $5 bills. I never experienced it.
You see them houses? You know how high the property taxes are? Those people got money. I know exactly what we were talking about. Waterfront property. Get out of here. They better be giving out full-size candy bars, you stingy jerks.
I didn't know.
Wholeheartedly believe that.
I never went past because when we did trick or treating, it was, excuse me, it was, we lived downtown and my mother would drive us to another area of the city. Uh, I'll just say it, LaSalle, and we'd go trick or treating around my grandmother's house because
Right.
that was like kind of like the people that we knew, my grandmother knew, and everything else. So that's what we did, and that was like the big thing was to go trick or treating. Like you didn't go trick or treating right after school because you knew you had to get home because my aunt or somebody was coming to pick us up, take us to my grandmother's, and that's when we were doing trick or treating. And my aunt um, was not much older than me. Well, she is, but she isn't. She's 13 years, but still, she is the one that taught me the pillowcase trick. Pillowcase,
Pillowcase
or
trick.
you know what I'm talking about? Instead of using those stupid little
Oh,
pumpkin,
just take the. I know what you're saying. Okay.
she was like, "Here, just take this pillowcase," and she would take the pillowcases out of my grandmother's house in the guest room. She's like, "Nobody's coming to visit anyways. Just take these. We'll empty them out into your book bag or something when we're done." So that's what we used. I mean, after a while, it was like, we're not going to do this. We're just going to go straight pillowcase, and we're going to go around the neighborhood. We're going to see everybody that we know. That way, we can get to the candy faster too. Because did your parents do the candy check?
Yeah. Yeah. They made sure no holes in it, and then they just take all the good candy.
Yes, I still do that. I would tell my kids all the time, we gotta do the candy check. But the funny thing about that as a kid is like I was a very gullible child, so I would watch my mother check the candy, and I'm like, wow, she's really checking it. You know, she'd go through it and go, okay, this goes to the side, this is no good. I'm like, wow, she's really checking it. And now as an adult, I check my kids' candy and I'm like, how do you even know? You're just rubbing your fingers across it. You're basically frisking the candy and you're just going, oh, well, this one looks weird. Like you said, your parents would go, oh, well, this looks weird. The Snickers looks weird. So we're going to put it in the
Yeah.
weird pile and just save to eat for later.
Wow. Why are all the almond joys just magically they have issues with it? How does that happen?
Up
you
in the
know?
factory.
Uh unbelievable.
It was just crazy. Were you get into costumes? Were you did your parents make your costumes, or were you like was it like store bought?
Sometimes store bought. They didn't make it. I was promised that they would. Um pan out. They were busy, very busy people. So we did do some shopping. My mom had one golden rule though, and she's a picture freak. She's really the interesting. She's really the reason why I got into photography. But she had a no mask rule. She hated the masks. You couldn't see us. So there's a couple years where I was pissed because my cousins, who they're my aunts and uncles weren't as big on the pictures. They got to be Power Rangers. I remember I got real sad one year. They got to be one of my cousins got to be a Power Ranger. The other one got to be Batman, and I had to be a lobster. And I don't know. I understood it to an extent, but it still stunk that I didn't get to pick out my costume that year. I remember crying and not wanting to go trick or treating. That's how bad. That's how bad it was. She had a friend. She had a friend make them, or they offered them, or something like that. And it's like, really, they get to be the cool characters, and I got to be a lobster. And yeah, it was probably. I in hindsight, I feel a little bit bad because it was kind of embarrassing for my parents, but at the same time, it's like I get this day once a year, and I can't pick out what I want to be. Uh, um, so yeah, after fifth grade, they let me finally have a mask in fifth grade when I did dressed up, and then after that, I was like, I'm done. I can't do Halloween anymore. But yeah, mostly store bought, and their store bought costumes are so expensive. They're
Yes.
so incredibly expensive. My wife nowadays we make our own. She finds funny, very cheap, inexpensive ways to kind of get it across. Um, like most recently, we a couple years ago when we first started dating, we dressed up as ceiling fans. All right, but here's the twist. Yeah, I know everybody makes that same face. Here's the twist. We weren't actually like ceiling fans, like the rotating ceiling fans. We dressed up like we were cheerleaders, so fans of ceilings. It's a twist on the words.
Okay.
All right. And we did pom poms and it said "Go Ceilings."
So
And it was very, very witty. But my wife is
yes.
great at that. And honestly, I don't mind not spending $100 on a costume every
Oh,
year. I love it. So but yeah, for the most part of my life, as a kid, when Halloween was most important, a it was all store bought.
yeah. I didn't get. I remember very few of my costumes when I was younger, but here's another. I know you'll love this because you're a big fan of the 80s. In the 80s, I don't know if you've ever seen these costumes. They had the worst store bought costumes ever. Just 100% ever. They came in the, you probably know what I'm talking about. They came in like this cardboard box, little cellophane window, and then all you could see was the mask. So you would
Right.
go and you would pick out your Halloween costume. And you're like, oh, okay, I want to be this person. Like one year I was the Count from Sesame Street. Uh, and so I was like, oh, I'm going to be the Count. Well, all it was like this plastic that reminds me of the like warm up sweatsuits that you would wear to try and get water weight off.
Okay.
And it would just have like a
Oh
picture
yeah,
of
those are
the,
rough.
it would just have like a picture of the Count on there, and it would be like one piece, little tie in the back, and then you had this mask with this little tiny slit hole that you could barely even breathe out of, and it was made with the roughest plastic ever, and it was flimsy too, and you could just feel it dig into your face whenever you put it on, and it was just those are probably the worst store bought costumes ever. Like I see what we get our kids now, and it's like it's like completely different. You're like, I feel like you're buying like a movie prop off of like a set. The one year my son was Star Lord, and
Oh, that's so cool.
I go overboard. I went online and I bought a Walkman, like a Guardians of the Galaxy toy Walkman.
Okay.
When he's walking around, he could clip the Walkman somewhere and actually have the headphones in, and it came with like the 1980s wired headphone with the orange things. Oh,
Oh man.
I, if
That's so
you
cool.
if you pick a character that I'm like, yeah, we could do this. I'm looking for every accessory possible to go with it. My wife hates me for it. Last year he was Han Solo, and I was like, "Does this costume come with a blaster?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Oh, we're buying you a blaster." What's Han Solo without a blaster? He needs a
Right.
blaster. So I had to
I
do it, and my wife.
wholeheartedly agree.
Thank you. Well, my wife did it. My wife was like, "Why would you do that? You just spent $10 on something that he didn't really even need." Yes, he did. He's Han Solo. He needs a blaster.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. Listen, I did one of my favorite costumes that I ever did. I got to be Obi-Wan. It was right after Episode 1 came out, and let me tell you, if I did not have a lightsaber to go with it, I would not have given a. I would not have given a care. It wouldn't have been as special to me, quite honestly.
No,
You need those. I think you need those accessories because if you don't, you're just kind of there. Uh, it's a little depressing. It's like having a toy. It's like getting a toy. So if I have a Star Wars toy and the lightsaber goes missing, which happened to me many times, that toy isn't as fun to play with anymore. I tend to look at it that way.
I know that because my kids are. I recently got the more modern He-Man and Skeletor, and my sons are eyeballing them, and I'm like, no, no, don't touch
No.
them, don't touch them. They're like, can I see the sword? No, no, unless I'm in the room, you can't see the sword because I don't want to lose the accessories. I learned my lesson. 32 years later, I'm learning my lesson that I'm not going to mess with the accessories on my He-Man and Skeletor. But that's
No, I can't tell you. I can't tell you how many times. Yeah, you lose the accessories, but that's how important they are. Because It sucks. You didn't pay attention to it as a young kid, and then it became depressing. But now it's like, okay, I got to find that lightsaber before I put this toy away. And I'm saying that as a 29-year-old adult. You know what I mean? I got toys all over this pod cave that I'm recording out of. It's like, oh, I got to have that accessory, or it's not really as cool.
It
So
is not.
no, so yeah, so that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, we were. I was. What was one year? I was a gangster, like 1920s, 1930 gangster, and that's what I told my mom. And my mom started making more homemade costumes as my brother got older
Yeah,
because he stopped doing it and he stopped trick or treating, but I still did it. And I think it was one of those she needed to hang on to it, not that she wanted to actually do it. And
I gotcha.
she found a suit that actually fit me at Goodwill for Salvation Army, and she stayed up with a ruler after work, and she took like a chalk or a piece of chalk or something and made the pinstripes perfectly
Mm,
all the way up and down this thing. And then she went out and she bought me a fake Tommy gun because what is a gangster of that area? We were talking about accessories. That's why it reminded me. What is that? You know, the gangster without his Tommy gun.
right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's that's a great. That's honestly a great story. I you love to hear that kind of thing. So how I forget, you probably told it me before, but what's the age difference between yourself and your older brother?
It's three. Yeah, it's 3 years. 3 years,
Okay.
but we were like 4 years difference in school. So
Okay, I gotcha.
by the time I'm like in first grade, he's like in fifth grade, and so on and so on. So by the time you get to middle school, pretty much Halloween is just a way to go run around with your friends and to see if anybody would actually give you candy.
Yeah.
And that's where he was at, where I was still in the second grade, and I'm like, oh, I can still run. I don't. Matter of fact, I don't even remember him going to. Oh no, no, he did. What was he? What year was that? I can't. I just remembered of a sweet costume my mom made for him. You're a comic book fan. My mom made him into the Hobgoblin, not the Green Goblin, Hobgoblin. And I wish I had pictures of this. She mixed
I'm
paint.
so jealous right now.
Yes, he was the
Oh,
Hobgoblin, and that was the year. It was. This had to be '89 because if I remember correctly, because we went. There was a Halloween parade or something on Pine Avenue,
okay.
and Paul from House of Fantasies dressed up as Batman. I was Batman. He had like this actual like Batman costume. I don't know if you've ever been in the store.
How's a fan? I love that story. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I've been there many a time. Yep.
Does he still have the mask up? Where he had it displayed somewhere after he wore it.
I don't. It's been a little while. Last time I drove by, his stuff was boarded up, but I know he had a lot of he has a lot of stuff out in that front like glass those glass cases. I don't know if he has the mask up though. He
But
might.
he was like full Batman and I was Batman. But the way that my mom did it was we had the Batman mask. She made a cape and then she just bought me like a black sweatsuit and
Yeah.
put like a logo on there. And then we found black gloves and she cut out in like black cardboard with the like ridges that Batman has on his gauntlets there. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that was my whole Batman costume. So here I am, like this little kid, like look at my Batman costume, and then here comes this grown man, and that's actually dressed like Batman. So it was kind of weird, but yeah, my brother was Hobgoblin, and that's probably the one costume that I remember him dressing up as and actually saying when my mom was like, "What do you guys want to do for Halloween?" And he was like, "I want to be Hobgoblin," and she's like, "What the hell is a Hobgoblin?"
That's how
So
my
he
mom would have been like. That's how exactly how my mom would have done.
So
That's
he went
funny.
running upstairs and he showed her the Spider-Man comic. He was that, and oh, the other one was he was the Simeonite Spider-Man. This is why I don't like
Oh.
Spider-Man. We've discussed this before, I think. Why I don't like,
Yeah, I think you mentioned it in passing. Yeah.
yeah, why I don't like Spider-Man is because he was so into Spider-Man and the Venom story where he would hold me down and like wag and stick out his tongue and move his head back and forth and go, I'm Venom.
Yes,
And
you you have said that before. That's
to this
funny.
day,
That's why I love. I don't like it because of the torture reasons, but no, I know that whole story angle is why I love Spider-Man so much. But
yeah,
I can understand being tortured as a kid.
she did a couple other ones that are pretty memorable. Ninja Turtle. I had a stuffed
Yeah.
shell. I had a stuffed shell. Uh, she kind of went overboard on the shell, but that was just a green um, sweatsuit. Once again, she was big on that. She cut the corner on that one. But if you would have saw this shell, you could use it as a pillow. Like she literally drew the lines out with a Sharpie and then went to Joanne Fabrics, got the fabric, and stuffed the shell with actual stuffing.
That's so cool.
And it went over my back. And then she bought a mask, and I had the mask and everything else. And I was Leonardo, the greatest Ninja Turtle of all. Uh, other one, and she was big on sweatsuits. This was like, I think she liked the same color thing because I was Cyclops, but I wasn't just the Cyclops that people know from the cartoon. Huh?
I'm so jealous.
I was the X Factor Cyclops.
Oh my god! Do you have pictures of this?
I
Now I'm
don't.
sad. Now
And
I'm sad because yeah. Go ahead, continue.
She went out and she got me blue sweatsuit, but once again she made all the lines 100% perfect. Everything else, just with some white fabric taped it out. And then I got the cool mask that Toy Biz came out with to go with their character, but then went with this. So I had the Cyclops mask, and when I could see through it, but when you press the button, you could press buttons on the side, and a little thing would like light up, like right above your eyes, so it looked like you had the powers of Cyclops. But
I'm so jealous.
I was Cyclops.
So jealous. I had a friend who actually made me a visor where you pushed a button, like he made it from nothing, and where you push the side and the eyes light up. But yeah, Cyclops is like always a character that I wanted. He's my top two like Marvel characters are Cyclops and Venom, and I tried to be Cyclops right around the time I think the first X-Men movie came out, and Toys R Us had a costume section. Cyclops was there, and but the costume it wouldn't fit, unfortunately. It wouldn't fit. It was just too small, and I was hitting a big growth spurt around that time, so that was a tough realization. I think I was in 4th grade when that movie came out, so it was a tough realization. But that was somebody who I always wanted to dress up as, always, and I never got a chance to, unfortunately.
Yeah, we were always comic book characters, and
yeah, we try to be. I mean, I looking back at my costumes, at least ones that like when I hit grade school, which I think is the most. That's when like I think costumes become more. Uh, it was, that's I don't remember what I was for kindergarten. I think 1st grade I was Superman. 2nd grade I was Robin. 3rd grade I was. Oh man, no, that was definitely Obi-Wan. 4th grade. I honestly can't remember. Man, I'm getting old. Why Robin? I prefer Robin to Batman. I like sidekicks. I don't like being a sidekick, but I like sidekicks.
Let's get real nerdy here. Which Robin did you think you were? Were you dressed up as? Which Robin?
Oh, Dick Grayson, I would imagine.
Okay.
It had the fake green underwear tights, and that was cool.
I think
really cool.
I think the only two logical ones are Dick Grayson and Tim Drake.
Yeah, I know the Damian Wayne one's pretty popular.
I didn't
Bruce Wayne's son or whatever, but I don't, dude. I don't dig. I'm not a big fan of secret identities being changed all the time. I think it's just silly. But yeah, 5th grade was my last year. 5th grade was my last year dressing up. I was Spider-Man. That was the first year I got to have a mask. I was so excited for it. Because you go to school, you do the parade, and but you brought your costume and you changed into it at school. And I thought I was so cool because I love Spider-Man lore at that point in my life. I still do. Spider-Man almost always had his costume underneath his clothes. So what I
Oh,
did was I wore it underneath my clothes for the day and just took my pants and shirt off, and bam, I was dressed up as Spider-Man. I was so proud of that. But I got picked on. I got picked at. Kids are so vile.
why did they pick
Fifth,
on you?
it was weird. You know what? Honestly, looking back,
Was it
in fifth grade, superheroes weren't like they weren't like the be all end all. Like I still loved them, but I remember getting picked on bad for a Batman shirt that I got from Darien Lake. That like people did not care about superheroes, especially kids my age at that time, which is ironic. I mean, I'm trying to think what was really big back in the day, but that was when
what
I
year?
first realized how much I hated. It would have been 2001 or 2000 or 2001,
Oh, geez.
if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it really upset me. It's like I'm just wearing shirts of stuff that I enjoy, and I'm getting picked on for superheroes. So there was a point in time where I didn't, I just this is why I podcast, dude, because people are just like, oh, you shouldn't like this, shouldn't like that. It's been a case in point for me for all my life. But yeah, I got picked on for wearing Spider-Man. I was really proud of that. I was really excited. And oh, you're too old for superheroes. I'm like,
You're never too old.
and these are the same pieces of garbage that when the MCU came out and the good Batman movies came out, the Christian Bale trilogy, they're like, "Oh, did you see it? Did you see it? What'd you think?" Same people. I don't forget that stuff. I really don't. And maybe it's me being petty, but I remember that sort of thing. But yeah, I got picked on for liking superheroes back in the day.
I don't think I think maybe it was a little bit easier because by that time when I was dressing up as Cyclops, that's when X-Men was coming out, the Spider-Man the cartoon, and I think it was a different story. So I could see that, but I don't see. See, we're kind of the same person. There superheroes always, or some type of fictional character is always going to be something pretty huge in your life. Uh, to this day, I'm still trying to talk my wife into doing me as Chewbacca and then my son again as Han Solo. And she's like, "No, we're not doing that." And I'm like, "Come on, because they want to do a theme Halloween costume, but they want to do stuff that I don't care about. So if I'm not getting into it, I don't want to dress up as it."
Correct. That's why. Well, that's why I didn't like being a lobster.
I could see that.
You know what I mean? That's why I didn't want to be a lobster. I wanted to be the superheroes. That was my sort of thing. So, um,
When you said
yeah,
you
you
got
really
picked,
had to love it.
oh, when you
No, you
said
just
that you
really had
got,
to love it.
yeah, when you said that you got picked on, I thought it was because of you just started like disrobing your clothes in the middle of class, like you were Spider-Man, like you were like, "Oh,
Well, I
here
did
I
that one
go,
time. I did that
his Spidey
one
sense
time, but
tingling."
yeah, I did that just that one year because I thought it was the coolest thing. But it wasn't even just because of that. It's just because I like superheroes, and that's the most disheartening stuff. I hate like looking back. I used to think that just my grade school days were the best times of my life, but they really weren't. They made me so jaded towards people, so jaded towards people because of stuff like that. Um, but
Well,
yeah,
I think the only time where I saw somebody's costume where I was like, "Man, I got to be this and they're that," was in daycare. And I can't remember too much about my daycare, but I do remember Halloween. I don't even know what I was, but I remember this kid was a transformer. And I'm thinking to myself, I want to be a transformer. Why am I not a transformer? And he had this is when you could bring this is dating myself right here. You could bring a toy gun into daycare.
you are
and
really
he
dating yourself.
yeah. And he's got it. I'm like, wow, he's got a gun. He's a transformer. He's gonna transform or anything. But in my mind, I was ready for him just to be like, and I'm like, oh, but he had everything. And this is years ago, And I'm like, oh my goodness, why can't I be a Transformer? And I can't remember what I was, because I can only, like I said, I can only remember being the Count. If
Yeah.
I was to go in order, what I can remember being the Count from Sesame Street. I was Buzz Off from Masters of the Universe, which is just pretty much dressing up as a giant bee. But that was one of those crappy store bought 80s costumes. And like I said, it was Batman, Cyclops, Gangster, and a
So
Ninja Turtle.
jealous.
So 6 years out of
So
what?
jealous.
My my brother was also Darth Vader. This was like my mom's crowning achievement of Halloween
Is that
costumes.
homemade?
It
Is it
was
homemade?
homemade, and I think I do have a picture of it. I
Please
if
find
I
it and send it to me. I'm
he
curious. How'd
he
you do the
was
mask?
I have no idea. I don't know. I have no idea.
But she
She
handmade it.
she handmade it. She was pretty good with the sewing machine and everything else. And so it was a lot of homemade stuff. Both her and my aunt are pretty talented, because my cousin got a lot of homemade Halloween costumes, like
Yeah.
Cinder or like Snow White. So if my mom could do it and find a template, and she could find time, it was homemade, because I don't know if she thought it was cheaper or it looked better, or I don't know, but she did that. But the Darth Vader one, I do know I have a picture of it somewhere. My other ones, I don't.
Mm, yeah. My mom was always interfaced with photography, so I can go back and find all the goods, all the good Halloween costumes that she photo documented everything, literally
Oh.
everything. It was. I appreciate it now, but living through it, little rough, little rough. Uh, but yeah, I'm jealous. You know, here I'm gonna flip the script on you a little bit.
Yeah.
So, uh, what is there any costume that you wish you got to dress up as that you did not get to?
Anything? Kind of thing.
I've already said
Maybe.
a few of mine. I've already said a few of mine.
Yeah, you did. I don't think so much, because maybe a Power Ranger, but by the time Power Rangers came out, it was one of those things that were I was getting older, and it wasn't becoming as cool anymore. But
Right, right.
Power Ranger, what else? I'm trying to think. Anything where I was like, I want to be this. Not really, other than probably a Power Ranger. That was like the number one thing. Um, I would switch a lot though. Like September, I'd be like, I'm going to be this, and then October would roll around. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be this. So there wasn't really anything that I wasn't, or that I wanted to be that I wasn't. It was just the way it was, either if it was going to be homemade or store bought, and it was more towards the end. Like I said, I think she was like missing out on the nostalgia of making things. So that's why she did it. But I can't say that I really, yeah, there wasn't anything that I wanted to be that I wasn't. I know uh, one year I wanted to be Bucky. Speaking of sidekicks, now that I think about it,
You want to be
I wanted
Bucky? Okay.
I wanted to be Bucky, and everybody's thinking, oh, you want to be like Winter Soldier Bucky from like the comic. No, I wanted to be like 1940s, that blue with the red tights Bucky. I wanted to be that. And I think that's when I changed my mind into something else, because Marvel came out with like encyclopedias almost, but it was in comic book form. I don't know if you ever
Yeah, I know
saw
what you're saying.
those.
I remember those. I remember those.
Yeah. And I saw Bucky in there, and I was like, Dad, who's Bucky? And he was like, well, read it. Kind of like what I do to my kids now. And I was reading it. I'm like, wow, this is Captain America's sidekick. This is so cool. And I wanted to be I wanted to be Bucky, but I never did. I never was Bucky because I think I changed my mind because I think that was around the Ninja Turtle craze. So sorry, Bucky, you got beat out by a Ninja Turtle, which is, I have to say, respectfully so. Because I think it was another. I think I might have been talked out of it because like I said, I was a pretty gullible kid, and my parents could talk me out of things because I think somebody was like, nobody's even going to know who you are. I'm like, yeah,
Right, right.
but I'm going to be Bucky.
But I
I
get to
want to
be
be
him. Yeah,
Bucky.
I get to be.
Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, I don't think parents like. I don't know. I know they were kids too at one point, but there's this. It's a cool sense of what's the phrase? I can't think of the word, but it's just suspending disbelief, I guess, when you get to put on that costume and you're like,
mhm.
you're not you're this character, and it is one of the it's it's a good feeling. It's a euphoric feeling. I think if you can pull that off on Halloween, you're good. You can hold yourself over for a year. But if you miss on a costume, uh, if you miss on a costume, it doesn't feel right. It's gonna bug you for an entire year. Uh, it has to me before. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
I didn't feel like this character, and that's an important trait for me too. When dressing up, I didn't feel like this character, so uh, we got to fix that next year.
yeah.
Always.
Another one probably that I should have been, considering the accessories that I had, is I should have been a Ghostbuster. I don't know exactly why, but I should have been a Ghostbuster because as a kid, I had proton packs and traps and all the big accessories that I could go with, and I was hugely into Ghostbusters. Next Retro Pop episode is on Ghostbusters, just to do that one too, just to give you guys a plug. But I'm a huge fan, so I was happy when you guys did that. But a Ghostbuster, and I don't know if it was. Do you go with the beige jumpsuit, or do you go with more of the cartoon version where they had
I like the
different
beige.
the different colors?
I like the beige, honestly. It was it's such a nice touch. Different color, I don't know. When you see a uniform, it's like it's got to be consistent. Yeah, sure, alternate like costumes and stuff are fine, but I think the beige is just it's just classic. You can't beat it. It stands out. It's not like perfectly white. It's just right. And I think I personally think it's the definitive look.
You, before we go, do you have any trick or treating stories of anything that house or a house that you love to visit?
Um well, I'll talk about some of the bad ones, or some of the worst. We actually talked. I didn't get to because I have a Eat Sleep List Halloween special coming out with our friend Brian Finch, and
Mhm.
I didn't get to talk about some of the really bad stuff that I've gotten in my trick or treat bag. But
Yes.
all right, I'm gonna just drop this for everybody. If you are if you have your light on the porch and you are get wait, do you have a 2 point shirt on too?
Yeah, actually, I do.
Hey, my man.
The same
Uh,
one.
we didn't plan it.
No.
And you are handing out the following items. One, a cough drop. I've gotten cough drops in my trick or treat bag before. Have you ever gotten cough drops?
I've never done cough drop. Here, go through the list, and then and then I'll say if I ever got them. We'll do
Cough
it this way. This
drops.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Never.
Cough drops, apples,
Candy apple.
oranges.
Never got an
No,
orange.
no, I got straight up like Macintosh apple right out of the bag.
Oh no, I've got like the
hey,
candy
hey,
caramel apples.
hey, you fat little child. Here's an apple. Um, apple. I got an orange.
Goodness.
If you hand out a nickel or a
I got
dime,
a penny. I've
are
gotten
you
a
serious?
penny. I've gotten a
I would
penny
have.
on.
Oh my!
I got I
I'm
know what you're
so
talking about.
mad. I'm
When they
so mad for you right now.
when they
You
put it in the
cheap.
little card, when they put it in the little card and then they tape it on there. So not only did you get a penny, but you got to like crank it off of there because they got like 10 rolls of tape on it.
Oh, maddening. Nickels, dimes, will include pennies. if you hand out religious propaganda like pamphlets and stuff,
You did
you're
not.
trash too.
You
Oh, I got it.
wait, back that train up. You legitimately, what was it? Like a pamphlet about how
You know how
Halloween
they
was
have like
bad?
no, it was just something about like a judgment day type thing. Like, you get people like that all the time. They're handing out pamphlets and stuff about follow God, this and that, which is okay. I mean, whatever. Religion is religion, but when you're doing that in kids trick or treat bags, you're trash. Sorry. You're
That's real
trash.
bad.
That's garbage. Um what was my least favorite candy? Hold on. But anyway, if you put any of those in somebody's stuff, you're awful. I have a bunch of like candies that I hate. It looks like I might have deleted it.
I hate good
Uh,
and plenties.
Good and plenties. Now and laters are hard. I hate
Come
those. They're
on.
very. They get stuck in your teeth. I don't like
Yeah,
that.
but back in my day, now and laters were like currency. You could you
I
could
got.
use now and
I got.
laters. Where I grew up in the falls in certain spots, candy was your currency. So
People like
depending
to
on,
trade that stuff.
oh
People
yeah,
like to trade
if
that
you,
stuff,
oh, you could
brother.
trade
If
you.
you dropped a now and later off the top of the Empire State Building and hit somebody in the head, you would kill them.
Oh
All
my
right. They're so they're
when I
awful.
lived
It would go right through them.
when I lived downtown, you could get a GI Joe, pretty much no accessories, but like a pack of now-and-laters. You could like any candy on the bottom shelf of Wilson Farms that like lemon heads, anything like that. That was like currency gold. Like it was. You have it now later. If you had a Snickers, they were like, "Oh, look at that rich kid." But if you could trade like so many lemon heads, you could trade so many lemon heads. You could trade so many now laters. Like it was currency. It was like a prison system with cigarettes, but with now laters and bottom shelf store candy.
I gotta take a look. Last year we did a Halloween episode, and there were some joke entries, but we did a tournament. I gotta find this thing. We did a Halloween like trick or treat tournament,
Oh, the toothbrush. I remember
and
that.
yes, yeah, toothbrush was another one that we got.
Tooth-
Um, let's see, where is our the toothbrush won a couple rounds. What we did for the Retro Pop show, we did a Halloween special episode, and what we were doing at the time was poll tournaments, and we did a bunch of like we did a few. You get your basics, your Reese's, Tootsie Rolls, M&Ms, Almond Joys, Mounds, Twizzlers, Rat Poison, Razor Blades, and the toothbrush actually made it to the semifinals. It beat out the Mounds and Almond Joy, which I was very, very sad about. Very sad about. So the toothbrush was a semifinalist, but it's like, you know, you're not doing me any favors. You could definitely tell who the dentist was when they, the dentist or just the dork who got bullied on Halloween a lot when they hand out toothbrushes.
Did
It's
you
candy.
ever get a pencil? Or I got to do it. I'm older than you. I could lose my train of thought.
I don't think I have. I don't think I've gotten a pencil.
We had a
I think
school
honestly the worst thing I
teacher.
ever got was the religious pamphlets.
I think well, I like the pencils because they release Halloween themed, and it was a teacher that used to hand them out. So that was what, pencil and the
You know what? You know what?
penny.
I would egg her house after I got home. I would egg her house.
I
That would be
couldn't.
the that
I
would be the
couldn't
house. Why not?
because growing up where I went trick or treating at, my grandmother lived there for years. So this was one of those still neighborhoods that it was a okay. It was also a different time. So if you did
Oh, so
something
toilet paper. You TP the house.
no, because if you did, if somebody else caught you doing it, they
Oh yeah.
knew who you were, and it wasn't. They would look at you and go, "I know you," and you're like, "Oh." And by the time you got home, your mother already knew everything that you did, where you were, who you were with. They were already on the phone with their parents and everything else. That was like the neighborhood that where my grandmother lived because my mother lived there. Uh, some of her friends still went. Her friends' parents still lived there, so
Right.
everybody knew pretty much everybody. So if you went one way, it was the other way. My grandmother did have a mean old neighbor, Mr. Klein, who was never home on Halloween. Um, he was, I don't know why he ruined our football field. He wouldn't let us use his yard as a football as to extend the football field. Uh,
Oh, what a chooch.
but yeah, if you did anything in that neighborhood, even where I
That's
used to
fair.
live in Niagara Falls, everybody knew each other, and then they would go, "Hey, I know you. You're so and so's kid." And you're like, "Are you his kid? Because I know you are." And you're like, "Uh-huh." And they're like, "Well, you better get home right now because I'm going to be on the phone with them." And they were on
Oh.
the phone with them.
Yeah, that's when everybody had their phone number in the phone books too, so it was very easily accessible.
Yeah.
Uh, that's funny. I do got to prefix. I don't encourage doing that. I hate egging and TPing and all that stuff. I even hate the people who would brag about smashing people's pumpkins,
Oh, that's
going
the
up on their
worst.
porch and doing that. I hated people like that. Hated people like that. So I certainly don't encourage it. It's just, if I was that kind of person and I trust me, the person who gave me religious pamphlets in my trick or treating bag instead of an almond joy or Reese's cup, they would have been TP'd in a heartbeat. If I was a lesser man, certainly would have been TP'd. So, um, what a jerk. What a jerk. But those are probably the worst things I've gotten.
Spider
Worst thing I
rings?
got. There's rough candies. What's that?
Spider rings.
I don't
You've
know.
ever gotten the spider ring? I used to
If
get
I
the
did,
spider.
I think I got it with candy though. If I
Oh
did, I didn't
no,
get it with candy go.
we did get
Used to
we
put
got
people used to put them in the cupcakes all the time.
yeah, we weren't allowed to have anything. Talking about it, this is where she actually did probably check the candy. We weren't allowed to have anything that looked homemade. So we got the candy apples. If it didn't look like it was packaged like in a factory or something, we weren't allowed to have it.
That's
So that
that's probably
that got
fair. You really have no idea. I mean, everybody would know if something happened. Everybody would know whose house it was,
Mhm.
but people are sick, especially. I mean, this day and age, man, people are sick, and I would have put it past some individuals, unfortunately.
Have you ever gotten a microwave bag of popcorn on
Oh,
just
pre-microwaved? It's already been
no no
microwaved.
no post microwave.
Oh, oh. Wait, would you say
Just no,
post-microwave?
I mean
Oh,
pre-microwave. Yeah, that's like still in the
okay.
cellophane, and they're like, "Here you go. Here's the microwave popcorn for you to pop at home." Sorry, pre-microwave. I've
Oh,
gotten
I
that.
don't. I would have appreciated that though, because I feel like that's. I mean, that's that you can get a full belly off something like that. I respect that tenacity. Popcorn's not a bad one. I would not
Pop,
hate. I would not hate a popcorn.
I
I don't
hated
think I'd be
spider
disappointed with a
rings.
popcorn.
I have to say, the penny was cool. Like when I was young, like first grade, because it was current. It was like money.
Yeah,
Well, it is
when
money,
when
but
pennies when pennies
matter.
meant something.
Yeah,
When pennies
and
meant
then
something, now they don't.
spider
You give
rings,
me a
I
penny, I'll
hated.
punch you in the back of your nuts.
Did you ever get the wax lips? Wax lips.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you?
More so, I got those in like goodie bags though. It was like a bunch of stuff. I never, as a trick or treat, like just an exclusive trick or treating thing, like going up to somebody's house. I would never get those. But if people had like parties and stuff, and they do like goodie bags and whatnot, you could always expect to find the wax lips, the vampire teeth. Oh, oh, the monster teeth.
Yeah,
Oh, those hurt so
yeah.
bad. They made my gums bleed all the time. I used to be like, "Oh, look at dad. Haha, look at me. I'm a vampire." And I'd be like, "I'm in so much pain right now." Uh, yeah,
And
those
then
things hurt.
me and my brother both went to a Lutheran school, and
Okay.
so you weren't allowed to dress up too much as Halloween. Um, so that's probably why I don't remember kindergarten too much. But uh, they did do. My mother told me they did do where you could dress up what you wanted to be when you grow up. And she said one kid came in one time in a three-piece. This is when my brother was in there, so this is like mid mid 80s. I want to say mid 80s,
Okay.
and probably early to mid. Um, and he was wearing like the three-piece power suit and a briefcase. That's probably one of the most interesting things I've ever heard a kid wear on Halloween.
Hmm. That is interesting. I do like that. I do like that.
So I think we've covered everything. You got anything else you want to go through, or
I think that's it. I think I've relived a lot of my childhood traumas through this show,
yeah,
especially the bad trick or treating. So I think on a personal level, I'm okay. Um,
this is your therapy?
yeah, we'll go with that. We'll call it that. Uh, yeah, I think I talked about the best. I mean, obviously, like, I guess the perfect way to end this episode is to really, it was just another way to kind of be with your family, I guess,
Yes.
from a Halloween perspective. You know, there was nothing better. I honestly think than being with my parents. And we go trick or treating. We go visit like my grandmother back in the day. We go see her, and she give us treats and all that stuff. And we come home, and it was just kind of nice because we're all sleepy, we're all relaxed, and we go and we watch like uh the Charlie Brown Halloween specials. We find like a nice kids movie. We watch Casper, and just kind of just sitting there, laying in your parents' arms, laying next to them, and just relaxing. At the end of the day, it was it was really cool. It meant the world to me in hindsight. It sucks when you get older, and pieces of your childhood start to kind of go away a little bit. Um, to be with those people, think back about those good times, it means a lot.
It does. It does. It definitely was a good time. I remember watching the Charlie Brown's special, and actually, that will not be on broadcasted on network TV this year
Oh no,
because no Apple TV will only be airing it because of because
because
because it's
exclusivity and the
yeah
world.
yeah because
Interesting.
how do you get to your streaming service? Rip somebody's childhood. Uh, but but yeah, it was a great time. It was one of those things that uh, kind of taught me how to plan as a kid, even though my plan wasn't always what the adult that took me, because sometimes it was my mom, sometimes it was my aunt. Uh, as I got older, as my brother got older and I got older, my brother would just take me. Um, he wasn't fun, uh, but it's just one of those things that I you thought about it from from the day it was once Christmas got over, it started in my head of Halloween. When is Halloween and Christmas going to come? So
Right.
that's definitely one of the things, and being able to, like you said, the family and everything else, and get to experience new things and do everything else is just a great time.
It is sad because Easter was like okay.
Yeah,
Easter was okay. It was just kind of like that filler holiday to me. It was more so like religion than anything. Yeah, you get an Easter basket and all that stuff, um, but yeah, Halloween was like that next special. It was Halloween was the beginning of what I called at that time as a kid the big three: Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
the
And
rowdy season now for my what I
what is
call
that?
I call it the rowdy season because the minute Halloween gets close, my kids are getting older, so it's not as bad. But when they were younger, the minute Halloween came, that's like somebody like injected them with heroin every 2 seconds. Like, oh my god,
Yeah,
and then Halloween it kind of dies down, and then as they start seeing a Christmas commercial, it's like, oh, Christmas is coming, and that's where I call it the rowdy season, and it doesn't end until the beginning of the year until it goes on.
they go
Easter
back
gets a
to
little
school. They go until they have to go back to school, and all the fun. The 2 week Christmas vacation is done with, and it's the beginning of the end. The cycle begins anew.
Yes, I've complained about it to my mother, and she's like, "Do you think you were any different?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't remember doing this." She was like, "You were exactly the same way." So,
Oh boy. Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
with that being said, happy Halloween to everybody out there listening, and good morning, good afternoon, and good night.